unfortunately, possibly the end of an era with Jason Kelce announced retiring after yesterday. So here's his final walk-off as he, I guess, leaves the field one last time. That's so sad. I'm not going to lie. He's one of those, I did enjoy the Eagles' downfall this year. I really did, just because of Nick Sirianni. But I am very sad to see Jason Kelce go. He's one of those players that really just had such an impact on the league on and off the field. I mean, what an incredible just media personality, always out there, always having incredible quotes. I mean, I'm here to play football, not dress up. Talk about people's walk-in outfits. So, yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on kind of Jason Kelce, but maybe more so on just the Eagles? Kevin, if you want to start.
Yeah, it was, you're almost like, you feel so bad for Jason Kelce. And I think that was like a lot of people, they have a lot of respect for Jason Kelce in that whole situation. But with Nick Sirianni, he's had this energy now about him really ever since he took over the head coaching job. I think the clip that's gone viral is him screaming at Chiefs fans after they won and see ya, like all that type of stuff. I get they made it to the Super Bowl last year. I get they were ascending, but it just, I don't know what it is. And the other clip was in the Super Bowl when I can't remember who challenged the call, but Sirianni's like pointing and Jalen Hurts is like, put your arm down. It seemed like Hurts was the adult in the room. And so you're just like, I don't know what it is, but I think Sirianni, if you talk about like hated coaches throughout the league, I think I don't know if he's at the top of the list, but he's really close to it. And plus losing, what was it? You go 2-6, 2-7. Whatever that record was over the last couple of games, the 49ers said they got the blueprint to beating the Eagles. And sure enough, it was exactly that way. One and done considering the roster. And they lost a lot of guys in the offseason, but they draft Jalen Carter. They restock and retool, and they bring in Kevin Byard. And to be able to, field that roster and then have your season end the way it did, we'll get into the whole Dallas situation, but it's almost just like, how do you survive something like that if you're Nick Sirianni? And especially with Jason Kelce looking like he's now riding off into the sunset, the Eagles team could look different next season.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of stinks. I mean, especially from my aspect, I love Jalen Hurts. I love watching him play football. Love A.J. Brown, DeAndre Swift. I love all their players. Jason Kelce, like, I've really enjoyed them, but I couldn't root for them because of how Nick Sirianni had kind of been coaching and his antics. Ryan, what are your thoughts on, I guess, the whole situation?
Well, first off, just as a player, competitor, Kelce, it pulls at the heartstrings to know when you know that the time's up. And even I wish I could have had a career like Jason Kelce and play in the NFL and played, 13 seasons, be one of the best of your position, having those iconic moments. I'm glad he did have a Super Bowl win, and that was an iconic Super Bowl parade, and he's just letting it eat, having a good time. So it pulls at the strings. And I even watched a video then as I was getting off the plane of the video with him talking to his mom after the Super Bowl, and just so for the player, it's just, this is what he's known and what he's done as he's grown and started a family and a life. So that's first off. And as far as then not Kelce and just team related, when shit happens on a team and things need to be changed, but you can't fix it, is almost the most demoralizing feeling you can have. And so watching the Eagles after that 49ers game, it just started this effect that the Eagles thought that they could fix it. And the next game, it didn't get fixed. Next game, it didn't get fixed. And all of a sudden, you have lost all confidence. And you've now lost the ability to believe that you can go out there and win in any situation. And quite frankly, the Eagles are going to have to, not saying it's an identity crisis, because they still have such a good culture as far as Howie Roseman, the team, like, they have great players, but they're going to have to reassess what the hell they have to do when they handle adversity, because the Philadelphia Eagles, for the first time in 2 years, had adversity, and it hit them smack in the face. And Nick Sirianni is going to be – I think he should be the coach next year. I do. I think that's too the dude's gone to a Super Bowl. You lost your two coordinators. Give him the benefit of the doubt. You earned it. But they're going to have a lot of questions, because 10-1 to that collapse is just unacceptable. Imagine in Baltimore what people would have done if that was John Harbaugh, but there's also a reason why John Harbaugh's been around so long. He's built a culture for so long. Sirianni's now going to have to bounce back and see what happens.
Yeah, and Rocco, I kind of want to ask you about this. Brandon brings up a point. He says, Graham, Kelce, Cox all played, 12-plus seasons. Father Time catches them all eventually.
Yep.
And, it talks, obviously the age comes a factor, but their leadership in the locker room, it feels like we're about to go into a new era in Philadelphia where it isn't Cox and Kelce that are, leading each side of the football. They're going to need these younger guys, the, Jalen Hurts, and on the other side, you have, guys like Kevin Byard. If he re-signs, Jalen Carter taking those steps into leadership roles more. So how do you kind of see the Philadelphia situation?
I see it as the end of an era, not saying that the Eagles can't eventually get back to where they were last season, the Super Bowl, and be competitive. But Jason Kelce, thanks, Zach. You just want to, see your stuff. It's great.
Oh, did I just? Did I do that? Did I do that?
Absolutely.
No, it was me.
It was probably,
wow.
Payback from when I accidentally fast forwarded the video like 45 seconds ahead instead of going full screen.
Yeah, I was trying to fuck around. My bad, guys.
There you go. It's all right. No, but with these guys, I mean, it's the end of their careers are near. Brandon Graham even said after the game, he's like, if the Eagles will have me, he's like, I would love to do season 15 and then really call it a career. It's like one final ride, the last dance for Brandon Graham. Kelce, when you saw him going over and hugging Jeff Stoutland, you kind of knew the writing was on the wall. And that's not to say that he couldn't have done that just after a loss in general, but you kind of felt that watching the Kelce documentary, seeing Jason Kelce getting up there in age. And I'm sure doing the Tush-Push all the time, it can get taxing on your body. I mean, you don't think about that, how beat up he probably got this season, just laying his body on the line and just like getting hit and hit and hit again as an offensive lineman. He's got a family. He has kids. Shout out to Jason Kelce, though, for a fantastic career. The reports say he's going to retire, 7-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro, and he should be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, the career he's had. And on the other side of the ball, those guys, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, I think you're right, Zach. The younger guys are really going to have to step up and lead by example going forward when rookies come in, when guys get drafted, because the Eagles – They had fallen off a little bit after their first Super Bowl, but then they got back. It's like a few years later, they were back in this thing. And it was like, all right, it's a new regime, a new generation of players where these guys were older, but, you had Jalen Hurts at quarterback rather than Nick Foles. And you had Sirianni as the head coach rather than Doug Peterson. So, let's pull up that right there if you want to read it off, Zach. But I think it's a new era for the Eagles going forward, and it's one that Philadelphia fans are going to have to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there about the toll that the Tush-Push alone puts on you. Laura Oakman put out my favorite quotes of the season was one I couldn't say on TV. Explaining the toll the Tush-Push takes on you, Jason Kelce told me upon push, he yells, fuck my life, Jalen Hurts. I like how they put Jalen Hurts confirmed. Here's to a man who also screams and lives, I love my life just as passionately. And that really, you said it. He played such a position that takes such a toll each and every snap. I mean, he's always hitting someone, and then a push is easy or a play as easy as the Tush-Push where everyone's like, oh, the Eagles, they just could run that the whole way down the field. I'm sure he sees those comments and was like, I would retire on spot. Because he is literally every single time just taking the brunt of everything coming at you.
Dude, his body is like flat by the end of that play, and there are so many bodies piled on top of him. And that play it's not as successful. Like other teams have tried it, but it's so hard to replicate because you have an all-time center in Jason Kelce pushing his weight forward, and then it helps to have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts who squats like 650 pounds, something along
per
those
leg.
lines. It's insane. Yeah. What'd you say, per leg?
Per leg, it feels like. I was going to say though, Kelce's one of the best centers of all time. right? And there's a reason why, and that's why I don't want it ever to be banned, because if you don't like it, then fucking stop it. And also, it's an art, but also that art puts your body through a beating each time over and over. And I would love if they have a mic, they have to have a mic'd up somewhere of Kelce yelling "fuck my life." I would love if someone could find that, said like, whatever Hurts's cadence is, and then just all of a sudden you just hear Kelce scream. Like that would be all time.
Like
and he's an all-time he's an all-time player too. I mean, but God.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if, like, remember when they were talking about banning the Tush-Push and there was the big, like, and everyone's like, the Eagles would be so pissed and all this. I wonder if Jason Kelce was like, please ban it. Please, I do not want to run that anymore.
Even if they banned it, it's like Ryan said, like you have to stop it. And what's to say the Eagles will even run it with Kelce not there? Could they run it as effectively with Kelce not there? And the thing about the Eagles too, and this is a Baltimore-based show. I'm always going to find ways to relate it back. My name is Locked On Ravens after all. I mean,
Locked On.
Yeah, exactly. First name locked, of course. But with this Eagles situation, it goes to show, like, you make it to the Super Bowl, you don't win it. There's no guarantee you get back, and there's no guarantee your roster looks the same. And we see it with the Bengals 2 years ago, where they get there and they haven't gotten back, and they haven't really gotten – I mean, they've had opportunities, but this year they were injury-riddled, and the Eagles this year, we're now talking about a team that made the Super Bowl a year ago. And now we're talking about it's a new era. It's going to be a different look to this team. So you can't take anything for granted, especially with all these teams. I mean, what are the Chiefs going to look like next year? What are the 49ers? What are the Ravens? So you want to get it done because there's no guarantee that if you get there and you don't win it, there's no guarantee you get back. And one more thing, that A.J. Brown situation, what in the world was that at the end there? I mean, I know there are a bunch of things you're going to have to figure out, but I know a question that some Eagles fans have been asking is A.J. Brown going to be there next year?
And that's where I think, kind of what we talked about earlier with the culture there, there's a new culture that's going to have to be established, with Jason Kelce, potentially Brandon Graham, and those guys kind of heading off into the sunset. They've done their time there. They've been the leaders for so long, where now it is at the point where the Eagles culture is going to rely on assuming he's back next year, what Nick Sirianni can do and how he asserts their kind of culture. And if a guy like A.J. Brown doesn't like that, who knows? Maybe he does want to be elsewhere.